Being self-aware is definitely torture. Let's watch this video.
What's up, y'all? I just want to give a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Raid Channel. Not playing. I just want to give a quick thank you
I thought there was going to be an ad right at the beginning for real, and I was like, oh god, I'm going to sit through this.
for all the support on my last video. Y'all be leaving the most wholesome and supportive comments that you got me checking my phone every
You guys really do say a lot of nice things. There are some real stinkers out there, and I'll occasionally respond to them just to... I have this problem. I mentioned it in the last video, but I have this problem where my friends and I, over the years, roasted each other so much that now my brain is always scouting for any chink in armor that I see in any kind of argument. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. The people who leave rude comments on videos are the dumbest people I've ever met. They have the worst opinions that are so obviously unchecked by anyone in their life. They've obviously created these in a vacuum, and now they're bringing them to the internet. And it's just so easy to pick them apart that it's like I'm resisting Sauron's ring, trying to not put it on to roast these people, because I'm trying to take the high road. I don't like to be mean on the internet. I don't think it does anything, but it calls to me. It's like, just whispering to me and just thinking about, I could make this guy never respond to me again, or right now with 3 sentences if I wanted to. And if you go and look, I've done it a couple of times, especially in other places. If you find my Instagram profile, you can find some things that I've said that aren't directly mean. It's pointing out every single way that the people are not thinking through this thing. They feel so smart and superior. 99% of internet comments come from wanting to feel superior. The other 1% comes from wanting to be a nice person and hype somebody up. And to those of you that leave those comments, I appreciate it so much. You have no idea the way that seeing somebody tell me that they believe in me makes me feel inspired to continue doing this. Not that I think that I would stop if it wasn't for those, but it's just really, really nice to have people who are here for it and who are glad to be a part of this. I appreciate it, guys, for real.
minutes to check for any new ones. Damn, I wonder if this is what a drug addiction feels like. Anyway, thanks again, y'all. So you consider yourself to be a highly self-aware person. At the very least, more aware than most people.
I wouldn't say that I'm more aware than most people. I would describe what happens to me as more of an observer effect. I've done some things over the course of my life that have shown me things about the world. I've had some really horrific things happen to me over the course of my life that have made me understand the inner workings of this stuff. I don't want to say the darker side, but the core elements of life and what makes it tick and what's going on around me. And that's sort of the thing that I think gets mistaken for self-awareness a lot of times. I think it's really hard to be self-aware. I think it's really difficult to see what you're doing in any way that isn't way, way back in the past. The only times that I can really think about myself and see the negatives and the cringe of it are when I have really big mistakes, or when I look back way into the past when I was 15 years old and think about certain moments that I said the dumbest thing imaginable, and I just cringe super hard.
You're constantly in your own world, either self-reflecting or trying to better understand why you're the way you are.
The human condition. That's what I'm interested in. That's where my true interests lie in life. I want to understand people more because I've always had a really hard time understanding. I think there's a whole set of rules and guidelines that have been going on without being taught to any of us. And for a lot of us, that works really, really well. And they pick up on it and we pick up on it, whatever. And that's happened to me too. But a lot of times it doesn't. I feel like when I was younger, I never knew what was going on. And I always had a really hard time understanding why it was okay to say this thing in this circumstance, but wasn't okay to say this thing in that circumstance.
And what sequences of mental processes led you to make the decisions you made. Maybe you're drawn to self-improvement related content or psychology videos because it helps.
I don't love self-improvement content. There was an age that I was where I really enjoyed the self-improvement content. I listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson. I never read any of his books. I listened to a lot of Joe Rogan. I listened to a lot of those kinds of people who were very interested in telling you about the human condition. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that everyone has flaws, and those roadmaps are just are just starting points. That's all they are. You can't follow someone else's pathway to enlightenment or whatever it is.
Helps you have a better understanding of yourself and therefore have better control of your life so that you can steer it towards a brighter direction.
Yes, and that's the thing that I talk about a lot that other people are curious about, I think, is the idea of you don't have to do these things. You don't have to better yourself. You don't have to get out there and grind or whatever it is. You don't have to put in all these hours to do things. But there are elements of life that you're going to miss out on if you don't understand some of these things. You're going to wonder why a lot if you don't put in the effort to understand why. I see a lot of people out there getting bitter because, oh, my ex-wife, she left me and blah, 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 or just that kind of thing. My job, they don't appreciate me, blah, blah, blah. When you understand the inner workings of relationships, of perception, of the mechanics that are at play within society, things do make a lot more sense. They're rarely ever fair, and you don't get to throw people in jail for not being fair, but at least you don't sit around and feel like everyone is just crapping on you constantly.
Maybe you've been complimented by others on how level-headed you are and how you seem to just understand them when
people love to tell me that I seem so laid back. My landlord always says, Cole's just so laid back. He's just such a chill person. And I just think I'm super not. You should watch me play video games.
actuality, it's just because you've experienced what they've experienced, with the only difference being that you reflected on it way more than they have, to the point where you understand why things turn out that way and what feelings are associated with it.
It's really hard for me to hear stuff like this that is self-congratulatory and not feel some kind of pushback to go, that's not true about me. I'm just blah, 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 whatever, and to downplay it. I don't like to accept compliments. I don't like to be told how great I am. I once heard a statement that really clicked with me that said, you're not as awful as they tell you you are, and you're not as great as they tell you you are. And I think about that all the time. And so hearing this kind of stuff feels weird to me, because I think maybe that's true about me, but also that could just be me trying to be the main character in my own head.
But perhaps that's why people are drawn to you, because your high levels of self-awareness.
Are people drawn to me? I don't know. I don't know. I think people tend to like me, especially acquaintances. In my day-to-day life, I meet lots and lots of people. My work takes me to all different kinds of places, and I interact with lots and lots of different people. And I love to push just beyond that barrier of small talk. I love to other people, they have 4 or 5 lines of dialogue with a stranger, and then you just stand there and say nothing. And I like to go for the 7 or 8 lines of dialogue and see if at the end of that dialogue tree, if it's just an end button or if there's way more that open up. Because sometimes you have a little conversation with somebody and all of a sudden, boom, it's like a page of dialogue options. I was in a store today, and I met a person who, I'm wearing this shirt, and on the back there are anime characters. It's going to be hard for me to turn around, but on the back there are anime characters, and they were like, "Can I see the back of your shirt?" And I said, "Yeah." So I turned around, and they said, "Cool, cool." And I said, "Do you like anime?" And they said, "Oh, yeah." And they pulled up their lanyard because they worked there, and they had Iran Host Club pins on it, and they had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure pins on it, and then they said, and my background is Gato from Jujutsu Kaisen, and I was like, oh, my background is Toji, so I showed them my background, and then it was just immense. They liked Berserk. I liked Berserk. Their cat's name is Guts. Just all of the conversation about Toji and how his character is absolutely perfectly written. It blows up like crazy, and I love to push just beyond those little points, and that makes me weirdly a close acquaintance to a lot of people. I have a guy who works at the post office that I go to, and he and I, when I go in there, he says, "Keep standing here. I don't want to work anymore." And we just talk for 20 minutes.
Awareness helps them identify things that they struggle to identify within themselves. You ever been called a therapist friend before? Having high levels of self-awareness can give you an...
I've definitely fallen into that trap before, where people just use me to talk to talk about their problems with, because I try to listen the best that I can, and I know a lot of other people don't do that. I am aware of the secret of listening to people talk is that you don't try to solve their problems unless that's what they want. And the majority of the time it's not. You just ask them how it makes them feel or follow the dialogue tree. If you're talking to a lady, you can just repeat the last 4 or 5 words that they said back to them, and it will open up more conversations. If they say, and then and then Crystal told me that she hated me, and I can go, Crystal told you that she hated you, and then just more dialogue happens. It's really powerful, man. You don't have to be the main character in every single situation. I know that's rich coming from me because I just info dump on you people as all day long, but it's true. You just passively be there and key in for what they're actually talking about, because people don't speak directly about what they're talking about. In every conversation, there's the surface level thing, and then there's the meaning behind the surface level thing. And you can try to infer that meaning, but what you actually want to do is ask questions that gets them to tell you what that meaning is. Because I think a lot of times men especially have this problem where I'm stuck in this idea of the male and female human condition now because the last video. But we have this thing that we do where we sort of think we know what they want or what their problem is that they want solved. And a lot of times you're hitting something completely else. You're bringing all of your thoughts into it, and you're not actually listening to what their thoughts are. This video is 9 minutes long, and I'm 1 minute in, and I've talked for 11 minutes. Let's watch more.
Other people, because it allows you to better identify the parts that make you tick, which in turn can make it easier for you to have control over yourself. It's like you're playing an MMO against other people, but you know the strategies and mechanics to the game better than most, and therefore are able to level up and get better equipment before everyone else. It kind of sounds like an OP buff tier character build, right? But let's be real here.
It's interesting. He might be about to talk about this, but there are positives and negatives to everything that you do in your life. Going down the pathway that I've gone down has created a lot of difficulties for me that other people don't have. In fact, recently I've thought a lot about other people in my life who have, children and have these big careers already and are living in bigger cities and doing all these things. And I've taken a pathway that has taken me strictly away from all of that. Sitting here in front of this camera and making YouTube videos is not a good line to having an easy and stable life. It's not something that uses my time in a way that directly profits me right now. But I'm interested in long-term profit, and I feel like with what I want to do in my life, which is communicate with lots of people and build a big circle and put out content and be here in this digital space, this is the right choice for me. So it's not that you have all of these benefits, it's that you're playing a different build than everybody else, or than some other people are. And you meet other people who are like this. It's not uncommon to come across people. When I was streaming, I know I've talked about this before, but when I was streaming, I met a guy named Cozy, and he was a lot like me, just a little bit further along. He was a little bit older than I was, and I learned so much from him over such a short amount of time because he just was very... I don't know. It was very welcoming to conversating with me and sharing information back and forth.
It's not. It could be a blessing that makes your life richer and more fulfilling than most.
It could be, yeah,
or
totally.
It could be a curse that will drag you down to the endless abyss. And the reality is, the pull towards the latter is far stronger than the pull towards the former.
You have to block out a lot of things whenever you're the type of person that I am, whenever you have the kind of mentality that I do. You have to be very careful to not throw yourself away in service of other people. You have to be very careful to stay on course and continue moving towards things that you know are positive for you instead of getting sidetracked with things that are very attractive to you. There are a lot of struggles with it for sure. And, I think that a lot of people see me as gloating a lot of times about who I am as a person, but it's just who I am. It's such a hard thing to describe to people. I got a text from my brother today out of nowhere that just said, I love you. Thank you for always being yourself and being really genuine. And I thought it was really nice. And I sent him back a text. And in my text, I just say, I don't know any other way to be, I thought this is what we were all doing when I was young. So that's just what I did.
What do I mean by that? Let's talk about it. Have you ever just learned or realized something that forever changed the way you think or view the world? It can be a really cool feeling, right? It's like you've awakened from the Matrix or you become enlightened.
Oh,
But
dude,
what if that
that's
thing
so
you
real.
learned was something you were better off not knowing? What if that realization constantly torments you and makes it harder for you to enjoy things as they are? Most times, that's what high levels of self-awareness feels like. I'm sure you've experienced this
Yeah.
before. Maybe you're just chilling in your room.
This is super real, and this is something that I think about. Are you going downstairs?
Yes, I'll bring you water.
Can you bring me water? And can you bring my Zins too? Thank you. Kind person. This is something that I think about pretty often when I'm doing something and I'm aware that I either shouldn't be doing it or that it's doing this thing to me. This is why I hate marketing so much. I hate watching something that I know that I don't want or need, but yet I still can't resist the marketing because it's stronger than my brain is. It's specifically tailored to me in this kind of way that gets a hold of me. And the self-awareness in that moment can be very torturous. The idea that you know that you can't fight against this thing. I'm someone who's very limiting to myself with things, whether it be I know exactly how much caffeine I can have every day. I can have about 200 milligrams of caffeine every day. After that, I start to develop a problem. I know exactly how much nicotine I can have every day. After I have a certain amount, I start wanting more and more, and it becomes out of control. I know how much food I have to eat every single day, and I know that I have to be very careful about what foods that I do eat, because if I eat certain foods, it'll trigger me and make me, ooh, thank you. It'll trigger me and make me go down a bad path. And there's a lot of other people who those things are really natural for them, and they don't have to think about those things so much. They don't have to be as systematized as me, and it's not as much effort to just exist. There's a lot of people who can just use their phone as much as they want to, and it doesn't ruin their entire life. But for me, I have to be very careful about how much I ruin my phone, and it's because I'm constantly aware of this not only the thing that I'm doing, but the meta processes that are running behind the scenes. But I'm still equally as powerless against them as anybody else in the world is. It doesn't do anything for me to be aware of those, other than I can sort of orient myself in certain directions and drift, because that's all we're doing in life. We're just drifting, and you can change your direction at any time, but I don't think that you can push yourself further down the road. So all I can do is just orient myself in different directions, but I'm still at the mercy of these things, and that can be really torturous sometimes. Not to complain or anything. I love who I am. I'd rather be me than anybody else, but it is true.
Lying in your bed and watching YouTube videos, kind of like right now. A voice in your head is
I'm not lying
telling
in
you
bed,
that
bro.
you should be doing
I'm
something more
working,
productive.
baby.
Maybe going to the gym, studying, doing your homework, developing a skill, and then you tell that voice, maybe in a little bit, I'm kind of tired right now. But then that voice claps back and utterly destroys you. It tells you, you know you're not actually tired. You're just being lazy. You know that the way you feel is temporary.
That is real. I am very aware a lot of times that there's a mental hurdle that I have to get over to get up and do something. That it's not that I'm physically incapable of doing that thing, but that I am resistant to moving again because I don't want to. I want to relax and play this video game or watch this TV show or look at my phone and zone out more than I want to do that thing. And that's a hurdle that you have to get over a lot of times.
You can still act in spite of it. Matter of fact.
And I'm not that person who's like, just do it. Just get out there and get after it. I don't believe in that way of thinking. I know for some dudes it really works super well, but for me it's not. Anytime someone tries to tell me what to do, I have immediate resistance to it. My whole life I've had problem with authority. I don't know what it is, but I just don't believe that any person has any right to tell me how I should be or what I should be doing. I know what I should be doing. I'm aware. I don't need you re-saying it to me. I'm smart. Do you not think I'm intelligent? I can do this. I'm aware. It's just that I right now am feeling that kind of thing that is a mental resistance, and I respond a lot better to positive reinforcement than I do negative reinforcement. Some people aren't like that, and I totally respect that. You do your thing, but that's just the way I feel.
The way you feel can change once you actually start doing the thing. You might feel lazy now, but once you start getting the momentum going, you'll feel engaged and focused.
I love working once I'm working. I have a big resistance to stopping working because I know that it's hard for me to get going again, but I love it. Right now, I'm, to let you behind the scenes a lot, I've been Instacarting a lot lately, and so I'll wake up in the morning and drink an energy drink and then just get out the door and start going, and then once I see that number going up, bro, Stop, dude. I love it. I'm so susceptible to seeing numbers going
Just
up.
that building momentum is really difficult. But you've done it before, which is why I know you're capable of taking action right now. And yet, you still haven't. Not by inability.
This is, oh man, there's a lot of talking going on here from me. I feel like I should watch more of this video. There's a very interesting thing that happens to me where, and I have a friend who's described it to me in a really particular way that I thought was really good. He said, this is just one of those things that you can't do it unless you feel like doing it. And I think that's totally true. Working out, getting in shape, diet and exercise, all those kinds of things, that's that kind of thing that there is no reason in my brain for why all of a sudden 3-4 months ago I decided I was really going to take another swing at it. And once you get that momentum going, it's super easy to keep it going. I love going to the gym 4 days a week. I love eating properly. I love the feeling that it gives me to delay my gratification and to build towards something that I'm really interested in having, which is a better body. I like that feeling a lot, but it's much easier to just get instant pleasure, and when you're living in that world, it's difficult to flip that switch. But that switch will flip for me. It always does. It always has. I've done this many times before. I've been really heavy. I've lost a lot of weight many times. When I was in middle school, I used to weigh like 240 pounds, and then by the time I was in high school, I weighed 140 pounds through developing an eating disorder, honestly. But truthfully, a switch flipped in me, and I just said, I'm going to do this. And then in my adult life, I've gone up to 280 pounds, and I'm down to like 190 right now. And I just, there's these different phases that I go through in my life. And as I'm getting older and older, I'm starting to lose a lot more of the phases that I don't want to have. I've cut a lot of things out of my life that I thought that I wouldn't be able to cut out of my life, and I've kept them out of my life for a very long time. I haven't smoked cigarettes in so long that it's disgusting to me to puff a cigarette. I've done that in the past year, and it was awful, horrific. Couldn't even take 2 puffs of it. Just horrible. These things that I thought that I couldn't do without at one point in my life, I have been able to. And so whenever you're sitting around feeling bad about yourself and feeling like, oh, I'm just a worthless human, I can't do any of this stuff, just wait. Just keep it in your mind that you want to do the thing. Keep building knowledge about how to get in shape. Make sure you're filtering out the bad stuff. If that's what you want to do, you want to lose weight, say. You want to drop some pounds. Filter out the bad knowledge. Learn about nutrition from people who actually know what they're talking about, who have science backing what they're talking about. Keep putting that information in your mind, and eventually something will click, and you'll figure it out. It will happen. You don't have to do it right now. Don't feel like you have to do it right now, and if you don't, you're a failure. You can do it in 2 weeks. You can do it in 6 months. You can do it in 3 years. You have plenty of time left, and everything is going to be totally okay. It's not wrong that other people are doing it right now, and it's not wrong that you're not doing it right now. Both of those things are totally okay, and you can just keep going.
But by choice. And I will
Sorry,
constantly remind you, as you're lying there staring at your phone, that you literally have the power to do something more productive, but choose not to. Damn. That one was too real for me. Alright, here's another one. Maybe you've realized that you're a socially anxious person. You've learned what situations get you anxious and when your anxiety starts spiraling out of control. This results in you doing one of 2 things. Case 1, you actively choose not to get yourself into situations that trigger your social anxiety, such as avoiding and turning down any invitation.
I think it's super important to push yourself into situations that you feel uncomfortable in. I think that it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself because it's how you break out of feeling uncomfortable. The reason that you feel uncomfortable, and this is a scientific fact, is that your brain fills in situations that you haven't had a lot of experience with estimations of what's going to happen. So the majority of expectations that you can have if you haven't had anything good are going to be negative because your brain is trying to keep you out of danger, because that's what brains do. They're trying to keep the body alive and moving. And if it perceives danger in a situation and you've only had anxious moments, they're going to put that in your brain and you're going to want to avoid it. But the more stuff you do, the more you realize that those moments aren't actually bad. You can go back to the same restaurant that you said an awkward thing in, and you can have that exact same server, and instead of being weird with you, they're probably going to go, "Oh, I remember you were in here yesterday. Hey." And they're going to be nice to you, and you're going to realize that it wasn't as big of a deal as you thought it was. And then eventually your brain will start to go, "Oh, who cares that that moment was weird? There's a million other moments." And people build an average of who you are. They don't take just one thing and go, "That person's a bad person now." That's not what they do.
Patience to social events or just staying in as much as possible. Case 2. You get yourself into those said situations, start feeling anxious, realize that you're feeling anxious, become hyperfixated on the fact that you're feeling anxious, making anxiety even worse, and as a result, you end up having a horrible time in
Sometimes when you're feeling really anxious, if you're in amongst people who are kind to you, some of the best things that you can do are go, "Oh, I'm feeling really anxious right now for some reason." And then that can build sort of a conversation. If someone, I mean, this has happened. People have told me, "Oh, I'm just really anxious right now." And I go, "Well, I'm sorry, that's no good. You know, do you want to talk about something, or do you just want me to sort of stand here with you, or do you want me to go away?" And you just sort of pick what helps you in that moment, and that person will probably be willing to do that thing for you. I mean, people usually want to be nice to you unless you're amongst really awful people. And if you are amongst awful people, then just get out of there, dude.
That social situation because you are too stuck in your own head that you fail to just take in the moment. You know what this all sounds like? Self-induced torture and sabotage. Honestly, that's what
And this is the thing that I'm talking about, right? The things that he's talking about right now are things that I have thought through and how to solve, because these were all problems that I've had in the past. I've been the person who stays in all the time. I've been the person who doesn't want to be around strangers. And eventually I was working at a restaurant for a long time, and I became the manager of a restaurant. And do you know what a manager of a restaurant does? The manager of the restaurant goes around to every single table and makes small talk with the people who are eating there and asks them how things are going and makes little jokes and does all that, has to take orders from people, has to train new employees, constantly being around strangers. So eventually you can develop out of those things. You might feel like all is lost and you aren't someone who will ever be able to do those things, but I promise you that you can.
self-awareness.
Trust me, I know that it seems that this might not be true, but I was the most awkward, difficult to speak, couldn't get my thoughts out of my head, and couldn't understand. I mean, well, I've always been a talker, but amongst strangers, I definitely wasn't. And you know, it's just not that way anymore.
This feels like sometimes.
You're allowed to have awkward statements, and you're allowed to have awkward pauses. That's okay.
It can be problematic in that
We
it either
expect
takes
that.
away from the moment and prevents you from being present, or it makes you so aware of your problems that you begin to internalize them and make them your identity. You're not feeling anxious, you're an anxious person. You're not feeling lazy, you are lazy. You can't enjoy relaxing. You know you're capable of doing more. It's moments like these where high self-awareness drags us down to wallow in our own misery. And unfortunately, these aren't one-off moments that happen from time to time. They're an everyday occurrence.
And it's okay to take breaks. You're allowed, this is going to be an interesting section. I love the idea of the path of least resistance. This is what I think all people do. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay to relax. It's okay to have time off. You don't have to be performing optimally all the time. I know that the internet would make you believe that you do, but I promise you that those people aren't performing optimally all the time. They have days where they just can't do it and all this stuff. And the thing is that once you build more and more momentum, you'll have less and less of those days, I promise.
So now you're like, damn, this f***ing sucks. Thanks for making me aware of the flaws of self-awareness. Now I'm going to be thinking about it all the time, thus making my day-to-day
You're totally
even more
fine.
tormenting.
Everything's
And to
fine.
that, I say, hey man, you're welcome. That's what homies are for, to drag each other down so that they can suffer together. Well, it doesn't
what we
have
do,
to be
dude.
that way. Like I said before, high self-awareness could be a blessing or a curse. It all depends on what actions we decide to take given the information high self-awareness provides us with.
Yeah.
If we're aware that we have a lot of mental baggage to sort out, do we choose to do the internal work so that it doesn't fester and manifest in unhealthy ways?
And this is the benefit of thinking a lot about yourself and trying to work through stuff. Everyone has mental baggage. Every single person that I've ever met in my entire life obviously has things that are going on with them that they either have dealt with or haven't dealt with. And the people that have dealt with them are able to talk about their problems openly and without any shame whatsoever. And the people that haven't dealt with their problems, when you bring it up to them, I try not to bring up anyone's problems to them because it's none of my business whatsoever. But if you stumble into one of those conversations where they're sort of alluding to the fact that they have something going on and you fall into that trap where you go, yeah, I've noticed that, every time you're in a relationship, you seem to get really anxious about, boom, landmine. They are pissed off at you for noticing anything. I don't do that. You blah, 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 just super angry at you immediately. And that's the benefit, is that, you tell me something about myself, I get it, dude. I know you're right. You're wrong. It's possible that you're wrong too. But if you tell me something about myself that is true, a lot of times I might have that moment for a second, and then you stop to think, yeah, I know you're right. I know I don't know why I do this, but I do, and I haven't been able to work through it yet, and that's just the way that it is. And that's such a powerful thing, to be able to be aware of yourself and not defensive of things that you have going on. And that's the best part about this whole thing.
If we're aware that we're feeling lazy and that the feeling is temporary, do we decide to push through and take action?
People who are very up in arms about their lifestyle being the only lifestyle that works is a bizarre thing to me. And that's, in my head, a marker for people who haven't really worked through their own stuff a lot, because they have some kind of thing going on in their head where they think, if my lifestyle isn't the only one, then why have I invested so much time in this and I've lost something? I haven't been doing something that I should have been doing, and that can't be true because I have to be winning 100% of the time. And I don't think that's true. There's different builds. It's okay.
In spite of how we feel. That's how you utilize high self-awareness to live a more meaningful and fulfilling life. The reality is
this is a 9-minute video, bro. Why am I taking so long to get through it?
Because our brain naturally follows the path of least resistance, and it's far easier to just do nothing and wallow in our own misery than it is to go against that feeling and act in spite of it. But It's precisely the fact that it is so difficult that suggests how valuable it is. The things we value in life, whether it be material or intangible, aren't easy to attain. If you want a nice car, you need a lot of money. To get a lot of money, you need a well-paying job. To get a well-paying job, you have to put in the work to show that you're worthy of that position.
Yeah.
If you want a healthy relationship, you need to find someone you're compatible with. To know who you're compatible with, you need to know yourself in terms of your traits, your flaws, your values.
And this is a difficult thing this is what's bringing up in my head. I'm pondering here about the idea of, one of my core beliefs is that humans are sort of really complicated pairs of dice, that we're effects of limitless dominoes that have been falling up to a point, and here we are now, the domino that's falling currently. And so a lot of times I wonder, the people who go against these things, the people who put in all this work, the people who become hyper successful individuals, are they actually are we capable of being them, or are we only ourselves, and their story is just that happens to them? I think a lot of times about Guts from Berserk, and he's this character who all these horrible things have happened to him over the course of his life, but he was just the right type of person to be forged into Guts through that process. And he's just someone who keeps staying alive, and his life keeps becoming more and more of this thing. And it's not really an effect of him doing anything different than anyone else is. It's just that his life is guiding him down the pathway to become that person, and other people's lives are guiding them down pathways to become other persons. People. That's what that word is.
And what you seek in a person. To know yourself, you need to do the internal work. These aren't easy things to do. If they were, everyone would be thriving. But surprise, surprise, everyone's depressed and desperately searching for the will to live like it's the One Piece.
I'm doing
but
great.
Who knows? Maybe the reason why we're so depressed and empty is because we don't have...
I get a lot of comments from people who say things along the lines of, doomer mentality. And I have that too. I truly believe that things are bad. And I say that with a smile because I don't care. I think it's kind of funny. I don't have any real tie to this whole thing. I don't want my life to end right now. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I like the people I hang out with. I like the things that I do. It's not the best life I could possibly imagine, but it's my life, and I love that it's mine, and I'm enjoying living it. But I don't have that weird tie to things of, oh, we have to make everything perfect, because I don't think that's possible. An asteroid could hit Earth in 2 weeks and we could all be dead, The Yosemite supervolcano could blow up and we could all go away. The ice caps could thaw out and there could be ancient bacteria in there that wipes out all of humankind, and this whole thing could hit the reset button. And I'm aware of all those things, so I don't have this kind of this... Isn't it so awful that everything is so bad? I tend to think of things more as, well, this is just the current roll of the dice and the pull of the cards that's going on right now. Yes, it's really hard to be a person right now. Yes, you have to operate at super high efficiency levels constantly. Yes, you have to make extremely large amounts of money that are increasing all the time to be able to afford living in America or the UK or, name your popular country. Yes, there are giant wars that are building right now. Yes, these things are happening. But I also know that murder rates are at an all-time low in a lot of places, that infant mortality is lower than it's ever been, that the rate of starvation is lower than it's ever been, that there's, maternal health care is better than it's ever been. Lots of these things that I think of as being what I would think of as being some of the most important things in the world, because they're things that affect people indiscriminately. They're tragic things that happen whenever they do it. It's not that I can't buy a home or whatever. It's that, children die before they're able to get to adulthood. That's what I think is wrong in the world. That's the things that I think need to be driven down, that people are having such bad lives that they murder and steal from each other. Those are the things that I want to have driven down, because it's so tragic that those things happen. And those things are driving down. So just because I, as some person, am having a harder time now in the modern world because things are more complicated, man, I'm just some dude, bro. Do I really deserve to have luxury and nice cars or whatever? I don't know. I have a hard time being upset that this is my life. It doesn't bother me. I have family that I love. I have friends that I care about, and I'm extremely lucky and blessed. And those are things that we can all have if we go out there and try to get them and put in the time to get those things. And so, I don't know, man. It's an interesting thing, because I agree with doomers in 100% of the case. I agree with doomers. Things are bad. Things are difficult, and the powers that be are ignorant to a lot of the problems, and there seems to be no way out from it. But it just doesn't get me down the way it does some people. So I feel for the people who it does get down really hard.
The awareness to identify the things worth pursuing in our lives. Maybe you're thinking, bro, this all sounds like ass. Having high levels of self-awareness is straight doggy doo-doo. Whether I choose to wallow in my own misery or act in spite of how I feel, it still sucks. And either way, the awareness continues to make me feel like shit. I wish I wasn't so self-aware, because at least that way I could be in ignorant bliss. It's only a problem if I make it out to be one.
It's their own set of problems. Exactly, I don't want to deal with those problems.
What my self-awareness does. And to that, I say, yeah, it is ass, man. I mean, I think the title of this video speaks for itself. And what are you going to do about it? Is reality going to bend itself backwards for you because you don't like the way it is? Shit, if that's the case, do me a solid and send an Asian baddie my way. Welcome to the human experience. This is our reality, and all we can really do is make the most out of the cards we've been dealt, and you've been given the high self-awareness card. Maybe you think it sucks, and that's completely valid. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. Don't fall into the trap of pathologizing the way you feel. It's all a feature of the human experience.
Yep,
but whether you like it or not, life will continue to move forward, and either you do your best to trudge along with it, or succumb to the weight of your burdens and get left behind. Furthermore, I don't think having less self-awareness is the solution to your anguish. Problems are problems, whether you're aware of them or not. Being less self-aware just means you'll struggle to identify them. Why do you think your dad beats you or resorts to alcoholism? It's because he has his own problems he needs to sort out, and he doesn't have the awareness to identify and deal with them. Do you want to be just like your dad? Okay, that was a little out of pocket, my fault.
I mean, it's a sort of left-handed joke, but it's totally true. I mean, the people who are on the internet being rude and mean, the people who everyone sort of looks at behind their backs and thinks, man, that person's an ass. Those people have lots of problems, and their ignorance of those problems and their desire to tell everyone that they don't have any problems does not get rid of all of their problems. So don't be so worried about them winning or whatever, because it sorts itself out. Trust me, it really does.
But hopefully you get the point. You gotta pick your poison. Is there any way to combat self-awareness so that it's less agonizing and doesn't sabotage as much? Yeah, it's by accepting it. At least, that's what's helped me.
That's let me go on a tangent real quick. There's two types of people in the world, or two types of assholes in the world. Let me say that. Let's use Donald Trump, because love or hate Donald Trump, he's kind of an asshole. But Donald Trump is a super self-aware person. I really believe that. I think that everything that he does is a precision-made move that he's thinking, this will be read this way, I'm going to do that. And a lot of times that play for him is to be a jerk. And that's a move that he's making. And he's being very successful because he knows exactly how to play that character to make that character do really well. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that he's been very successful in his life at what he wants to do. Now, there's a whole group of other people that are out there in the world that are assholes that are not self-aware at all. And they see people like Donald Trump and they go, oh, if I'm just a jerk, then I win. That's what's going on. And it's wrong. They do not win. They lose over and over again. Those losers lose, dude. That's what they do. They show up, they say stuff that is half thought out and ignorant that can easily be picked apart, and they're douchebags, and no one likes them. That's the way that it is. They're not more intelligent than people. They don't stump people all the time. They just say rude, douchey things, and people around them just kind of look around like, man, read the room, dude. And that's what happens. And then they leave, and everyone goes, that guy was kind of obtuse, wasn't he? And that's a really interesting thing. So when I say that they sort themselves out, there's a caveat to that.
Awareness is just your mind's way of processing information and perceiving reality. When you come to terms with the fact that that's just how your mind operates, it becomes less tormenting because you finally stop resisting it. And remember, your brain follows the path of least resistance. Now, don't take this the wrong way. Acceptance does not mean that...
Bro, I don't understand how I say caveat and then someone else says caveat. I don't understand what my deal is.
Resisting the feelings associated with high self-awareness is not the same as resisting the trait that is high self-awareness. You can accept the fact that that's just how your brain operates while still resisting the feelings that...
You can watch your thoughts go by and you don't have to interact with them.
...come with it. Matter of fact, I think that's something you should do so that you aren't a slave to your own emotions. Emotions are like the wind. They come and go. If you're always drifting along with them, you'll end up nowhere near where you want to be in life.
Totally.
Here's another thing you can do to make self-awareness less agonizing. Learn to be kinder to yourself. Who said you had to be perfect? That you always have to be productive?
I was having a very hard day today, and when I was out and about, I was telling myself lots of things like, this is just part of your story, man. This is your time. You're building your empire right now. You're doing what you need to do to make things happen. This is just part of it. And you're totally doing great. And no matter what happens, you just got to show up and be there for the people who need you to be there for them. And that's the truth of every single day of our lives. It's a story that we're telling every single day, and all you have to do is show up for it, and it'll keep moving forward. Things change, and you change with them.
That you can't feel like human garbage from time to time. We're all going to have our moments of weakness where we fall back to our...
And I always tell myself this, whenever I'm super lazy, whenever I'm feeling, just don't feel like working at all, I always tell myself, you're going to feel like working again. You're going to get back to this. I trust my future self to take care of this problem. He's going to do it. I can do this.
Old ways. And when we're especially hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up for it, it makes it so much...
I'm glad we found some more positive messages, by the way. There for a minute, I feel like all the videos that I was making were so downer, dude. And I'm glad that we're stumbling into some more fun stuff
harder
now.
To bounce back and get our shit together again. You know when your dad would beat you as a kid for doing something and you were too terrified to do that thing again? Yeah, that's what you're doing to yourself, but emotionally. So chill out. Take your steps forward, forgive yourself when you end up taking a couple steps back, and continue to move forward when you're ready. The way we think, the traits we have, the features we were inherently born with, they are all tools we can pull out of our tool belt to help us navigate this journey that is life.
Totally.
Whether we choose to build a beautiful house or destroy everything around us, all depends on how we use those tools, and high levels of self-awareness is just one of many of them. Being self-aware is torture. But it's also the key that allows us to find our own purpose and meaning in life, and that's a price I'm willing to pay. What about you? Alright, that's it for now. Take care, guys. See you next time.
That was a really expertly done video. I want to subscribe to So You Think I'm Stupid. Go like that video. That was really, really well done. It's an interesting thing, this mental prison that we're living in. You know, we are the dwarf in the flask. We are the homunculus. This presence that lives behind the eyeballs, the thing that is controlling this meat suit, controlling being a loose term here. And And understanding these sort of internal struggles that we all go through is a big part to moving forward as a person. It's a big part to letting it go. It's a big secret to the happiness that I've been able to find in my life. And I wasn't always a happy person. I have been I can remember being a child and praying to God to kill me because I didn't want to go to school the next day. Things were not always sunshine and rainbows for me as a person, definitely. And the happiness that I've been able to find has been through understanding myself, understanding the people around me, finding a deep, genuine love for all of the human beings. Even when I see those people who are being the assholes on the internet, the urge to smack at them is not an urge of you need to go away. It's an urge of, if I smack at you, you'll understand that you're not the biggest, baddest dude who's ever lived. In this room, you're actually a kid who has no idea what's happening, and you've stepped into something trying to... You're the guy pulling the hat off of Bradley Martin or whatever his name is, That's the moment that you're having here, and someone needs to give you that little smack just through the internet to show you that, hey, you can be wrong about things. And that's the reason that I feel such a desire to do that. That's why me and my friends roasted each other so much growing up, because we didn't want us to go being unchecked. We wanted us to grow as people. And you know what? That circle of friends are all the most mature, developed, self-proficient, very aware of the world around them and interact very well with the world around them, people that I know. And I really believe that it's because we checked each other. We talked about the things that were going on in our brains. We had deep, meaningful conversations with each other about ourselves and things we were going through in the life we were leading. And we've all become really, insanely mentally tough people, and then also in our own ways, really happy people. And we would all tell you the same thing, that we're all tortured in our own ways, for sure. But in reality, compared to most people who I see out and about, me and my friends are some of the happiest that I know, truly. So that's it, guys. Be safe out there and like that video. It's good.